Hi there, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from New Zealand, and I'm bringing you another global monthly video hop. So the theme for November is gift giving. So I'm going to show you how to make a cute little gift card holder. And in the description below this video will be links to the other demonstrators who are participating this month to show you other wonderful ideas for gift giving, just in time to get you ready for Christmas. So my children are grown now, so as far as giving gifts, it's quite difficult once they get to a certain age because now they work and they have their own lives. They can buy whatever they want. So when they were little, I knew what to get them ahead of time and they couldn't buy it on their own. So I've decided best thing for bigger kids and some people that you just don't know what to get for is a gift card. So I'm going to show you how to make a cute card holder that stores a little gift card. Or you can just slip some cash in there. So you can put some money in there or a gift card. So that's always a great thing to give, and when you give a gift card, sometimes it's a little impersonal, but if you make a handmade card, that makes it much more personalized to the recipient. So for this one here, I'm going to change it up a bit. The basic design will be the same, but I'm going to decorate it slightly differently so you can get different ideas. But I will talk you through what I did on the original card at the end of this video. And there will be a link below the other video hop links. It will show all the products that I used for this. So if you want to purchase any of them, you can see the list below to find out what I used to do the card. And if you just contact your demonstrator or Stampin' Up! To order, or if you're in New Zealand and don't already have a demonstrator, you can go to my website, michellekritchley.stampinup.net, and you can order directly from me, which would be great. I will also be doing a blog shortly with lots of ideas for gift card holders. So not just this one, but on my blog I will be showing other ones that I've done in the past and links to other pictures and videos for those. So this one mainly uses the sweet little Stockings stamp set as well as the matching dies for that set, which are called stocking dies. So that's in the current Stampin' Up! Holiday catalog. And I use a couple different embossing folders for this, the Brick and Mortar 3D embossing folder as well as the Timber 3D embossing folder. So let's get started, and I'll tell you what you need to do to make this and show you a slightly different decorated one, but the rest of the card is exactly the same. So you can store your gift card in there, have it nicely hidden, and even when the gift card's taken out, the card itself is really cute. Okay, so we'll get started on that, and it's not very difficult at all. You start with your basic card base. So here in New Zealand, we do things in metric. So you might be in a country that uses imperial. I grew up in the United States, so I work in inches as well. But for this, you're going to take your A4 or maybe letter size card stock and cut it in half so you end up with the long skinny strip. And for New Zealand, it's cutting it at the 10.5 centimeters, the full length, and then you're going to score it down the middle. So the score in the middle here is 14.85 centimeters, which you will score that and fold. And then on one half of it, you want to score it roughly in half. So that would be some weird number here, which would be like 7.425. But it's a bit difficult to do that. So I scored it from this side to here. I believe it's 7.3 centimeters. So as long as it's just slightly shorter than this side, because if you make it exact, it doesn't fold very well. So score it slightly, and then when it folds over, it's okay if there's a bit of a gap there. You don't want it to fold too far because you want to be able to close your card. So this section here is 7.3, and then this section here is about 7.6 centimeters. But if you're doing it in inches, basically you want your card scored in half one way and then roughly half again to make this little pocket there. You'll also need a piece of white cardstock to go on the inside. So the part that you'll leave so you can write your message, just have that just slightly smaller than the rest. So in this case, it's 10 centimeters this way, and I believe 14.3 centimeters that way. So you just want to have a little bit of border of the background card. And then you want to have a matching designer series paper. And by the way, this is the Misty Moonlight background color. My original card, I went with white. So on the original one, I did the basic white cardstock, and I was playing around with the candy cane stamp, which is a very large stamp. So I stamped the whole background in candy cane, which meant I had to put another piece of white over it, and I decided to round the edges. And I also stamped candy cane stamp on extra cardstock and cut out these stockings with that. I was just trying out my new candy cane stamp. But for here, the background is Misty Moonlight. And so this designer series paper comes from the Pattern Party Designer Series paper pack. One side has interesting images, and the other side is all black and white. It's a host-only pack. It's large pack, and you can find it on page 171 of the annual catalog. So it has lots of pages. It's 48 sheets, but they're 12 by 12 inch, so they're large sheets. One side is a pattern side, and the other side is a black and white. And the images on there go with a lot of the different stamp sets in the catalog. Like here is the, I think that's the leopard skin image and the flowers, etc. You can only get that if you either host a party or you have an order large enough to get rewards, and then you use your rewards to purchase the paper. So I chose that piece there, which is Misty Moonlight, and for that piece you just need, again, to cut it slightly smaller than this section. So depending on what size you score for that part there, you want to cut your designer series paper slightly smaller. So in this case, my paper ended up being 7 by 10. So that's 10 centimeters there and 7 centimeters across that way. So that's for that section there. And then I cut with the real red using this large tag die, which comes with the stocking set. I use this large die here, and I've already pre-cut out of real red this section here. Now the reason I've already pre-cut that is because I'm going to emboss it as well with the brick embossing folder. And if you're going to emboss something that you're die cut it first, because if I were to emboss it first and then die cut it, when I ran it through to die cut, it would press out the embossing. So that's why I've done that first. And that's going to go in that section there. Now I've already stamped, colored, and die cut the rest of the decorations for the set. And that's because I colored them with the Stampin' Blends, and I didn't want you to sit around watching me color. So I've already, they're all right here, I'll dump them out, gone ahead, and this time, so for the original card, I stamped on white with the candy cane stamp, and then this is you can't quite, maybe you can see in the video, this is the white velvet paper. So I've cut all those out of the white velvet paper to give it a bit of texture. And that's how I decorate it with those stockings. I did the same stockings, but this time I stamped them. So I've stamped them all. Let's slide that out of the way so you can see them. There's 3 different stamping sizes for the stockings. So I stamped all of those and colored them in. And I use the Stampin' Blends. I use the Real Red. I believe that's Just Jade, that's Misty Moonlight, and Daffodil Delight. So I've also, there's different gifts, presents. So I stamped, colored those. I did some hats, and I did the 3 animals. So we got a dog, a cat, and a hamster. And I also did a few candy canes. And then I've die cut some little greenery, because with the dies, besides having dies that will match all the stamped images, you also have one for the little greenery. You have it for the berries and the holly leaves, and you have a little bow, as well as a star. And then these ones here cut out the toes, feet, and the top of the stocking. And then that one cuts out, I guess there's some greenery. Yep, there's another stamped image of greenery. So the dies will cut out all these stamped images, but then there's extra dies to cut things out. So I've done some greenery here. I'm going to try to make some mistletoe out of that when I decorate it. And so this one has a little bow. So that's what the bow looks like. All right. So let's start putting things together. So we'll just set these aside for now. And I'll leave those in sight if you want to see how they're colored. And then let's get started on the rest of it. So once you have your little flap, you want to stick it down. Now I find tear and tape is the best thing to do, because then you don't get the glue in places you don't want it to be. So just get your tear and tape. This is a new roll, so I don't know where the end is. Oh, there's the end. And you don't want to put any tape around the folded section, and I'll show you why in a minute. So you only want the tear and tape on the edges. So you can go around that edge and that edge, and then you can put some on the bottom. So just those 3 places for your tear and tape. You could put your liquid glue there, but you have to make sure it's a very thin strip, because you don't want the whole side to glue down. You only want part of it to glue down. So once you have your tear and tape there, you can glue this down. All right. And then they'll stick that down. And so remember, when you score it, you don't want it to be exactly even, because you don't want it to go over the middle line there. So now that's stuck down on those 3 parts, not on the top. And so what we can do now is taking that same tag piece, that large piece there, I'm going to run it through, and I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine, just having that little overlap there. And that will cut out a section that will allow me to slip my gift card in. And this is the perfect size for the gift card. So as you can see, the gift card is small enough to fit within that. So it's the perfect size for that. So I'm just going to cut it there. Now my original one, I cut it, if you have a look, I cut it right in the center. And then this covers edge to edge, and the stocking helps to cover any overlap. But for this card, I'm going to cut it slightly higher, because I want to set it up differently. And you'll see why as I put the card together. So this time I'm going to cut it just a bit higher. And you want it just enough to have the cut go through. So just over the edge, okay? So I'm going to run it through that way with about that height. I think that would be a good height. I'll just double check. Yeah. So I'm going to go run that through. And then the other things I'm going to do is, I forgot to mention, you need a strip of brown. In this case, I went with crumb cake. Now I'm going to emboss the crumb cake using the timber embossing folder. Now that's going to give me the mantle for kind of making a fireplace look there. So if you're going to use an embossing folder that has a direction to it, you've got to keep that in mind when you run your cardstock through. So if I ran my cardstock through that way, I would have all the wood grains going upward. But I want it to look like the wood grain is going this direction. So I'm going to put it there. And you can look through it and adjust your cardstock to get a different image, you know, how much wood, if you want any of the little circular parts in your section, you go with that. Now, I will cut this down after I die cut it, emboss it. I just grabbed a scrap piece that I had, and then I'm going to show you how to bring out the color with that. So I'm going to run that through the embossing machine. And I'm also going to run this section through using the brick and mortar folder. And again, directional, so I want my bricks to be going that direction. So I'm going to run it through that way. But what I want is I want to get some color on it, because my original one, even though if you have a close look, you can see those bricks, they don't stand out very well from a distance. So I want to get some color on there. And what you can do is you can put some ink onto your embossing folder, and when you emboss it, it will press the color into the paper. So you have to decide whether you want it pressed in or if you want it on the top layer. So for this one, I want it pressed in. So I want it to look like it's the mortar in the bricks. So the front part where it says Stampin' Up, I'm going to put some ink on there. And I'm going to go with gray granite. Hopefully that's dark enough. I haven't tried this color yet. So I'm just going to press some ink there where I'm going to put my die cut piece. And as you can see, hopefully, there's some color showing up right in the edges. I didn't need to do that much. I'm just trying to find a section that I like. And so I just need a section big enough for this. So you can see where it's dark, that's going to press into the red card. So I'm going to carefully place my cardstock. You don't want to move it once you put it down because it will smear. And then close that. Okay? Now run your embossing folders through with the folded side first. It doesn't matter which direction up it goes as long as the folded side goes in first. I'll go do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've done all that. So I cut that through. So it was going through 2 layers, so you want to go back and forth a couple times. And so you can see this is the end of it. And I just cut that off. So because I didn't tape up there, we should be able to open this section. There we go. So that section opens up, and that's where the gift card is going to be slotted in. All right. So that opens up there. And then the other things I did was I did my mantle for the fireplace. Okay, so I'll show you how to color that in a minute. And then that was the piece that we put the ink on. And now when I open it up, you'll see the ink has gone into the grooves, so it looks like there's a bit of mortar in there. And it doesn't matter that I got a little bit on there. I'll probably cover that with a stocking. So that stands out much more than my original one. So that's how you can get color on there. But just keep in mind when you're doing something like that, inking up your embossing folder, which direction is going to press in versus which is going to stand out. Because if I ink this side, the bricks would all have color on them, and the center part with the where the mortar would go, the gaps, would not. So keep in mind how you want it to look. And I can simply just go rinse that off in the sink because it's water-based. So I can do that, or I could just take my Simply Chamois and just wipe it off. So see, it comes right off. Just make sure you do clean it off before you use it again. So I'll set that aside at the moment. All right, so now let's start putting things together. I want some color on here because that wood grain doesn't show up very well. And so you've got different directions. One's standing up and one's not. And to do that, I'll just grab a piece of scrap paper. Because I'm going to sponge on, I'm going to put some color on there. So my scrap paper, I'm going to use my blending brush, and I'm going to try it with soft suede. So I think my original one, I did it with the early espresso, which is quite dark. So depending on which side you have up, again, just like with the embossing folder, it will bring out the color. So using your blending brush, get some color on it. And then I always tap a bit off of my scrap paper and just gently rub on the top so the raised portions will pick up the color. And it just depends on what color ink, how much it's going to come out. And I like to just do a bit of a swirl so it gets right into the edges of the wood grain. So it's kind of like if you're staining wood, if you've ever done any staining wood, you know, the part sticking up will pick up the color more than the part lower down. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the whole thing because then that will help me decide which part of it I want to use for my mantle. I'll bring it up to the camera in a second so you can see it a bit better. And you could do this with a dauber or if you have a bit of a sponge. Either way, I just thought I'd use the blending brushes this time to see how that looks. So you might notice that there is some color coming through. And I think this is probably, less than a ½ inch. It's probably 1 centimeter. Yep, it's 1 centimeter wide, this section here. And then the length just depends on how long you want your mantle to be. I think that's probably good enough. It's not quite as dark as my original one. So just to show you, so we got a bit of darkness there, a bit of the wood grain coming out. My original card, I think I just used the edge of the pen and I just caught the colors of the grain. So it depends on what you want to do. Okay, so that just gives me a little darkness to the grain. So now let's start putting things together. So I'll stick that on there. It doesn't matter that it's cut through because you're not going to see it on the other side. So I'll stick my designer series paper down. I could use tear and tape, but glue's just a bit quicker. So we'll decorate that side. And you could have it going either direction. We could have the card opening the other way. I'm just so used to them opening one direction. So I could do it where it opens this way if you want it. But I'm going to leave it that way, so we'll stick that on there. And then we're going to put this there. Now, it's the exact same width, so there is a little bit showing there, but when I put the stockings on, I will cover up some of that. So I want that to be central. And for this, I only want to put the glue on 1/2 of it because that part needs to be able to be opened. So I think I will eyeball that and then just put the glue on this part. Because I don't want the glue going over the opening. And I'll just glue that down. Make it pretty much central. There we go. And using cardstock, I thought about using the Brick Designer Series paper, but cardstock gives it that stiffness, so it will open up that way. Okay. So for the inside, the reason I put that down first is I need to see where to stamp the sentiment. I don't want the sentiment to be shown out here. I want it to be hidden on the inside. So this one I'm going to use the word Santa Paws is coming to town. So it does look like I could just do it centrally. I could do it left or right. So here I'm going to leave that there so I can see where to stamp, roughly there. And I think I will do this. Let's see what it looks like with the real red. I might find that's too dark and then I'll turn it over. So always stamp before you stick it down in case you mess up your stamping or don't like the way it looks. Okay, so we'll pop that there. Straight down, straight up. And let's see what I think of that. There, so that's the message is hidden. Yep, that's good. I know it's sort of offset, but when I decorate it, it won't be that noticeable. So I'll glue that down now. Actually, I'll use my tear and tape. I like to do tear and tape on things that I don't need wiggle room, so they're just going to go straight down. So pop your tear and tape on the straight parts. You don't always need to do all 4 sides, it's up to you. Some people just do 2 sides, some people do 3 strips straight across the middle. I feel if you're doing all the sides, you really don't need to stick anything in the center because it's going to be down. And if you've watched any of my videos, you know I like to do the tabs. It helps me to make sure that it is straight to start with, because I am notorious for stamping crooked and placing things down crooked. And when you're trying to do something fast or on video, you do tend to do that kind of silly thing. Okay, so I'll just pull up a couple tabs so there's only a little bit of sticky exposed. And then you get your corners set up where you want them to be, so you got a little bit of color showing up all the corners. And then once you're happy, push down on the corners that have the sticky exposed. So now that I'm sure that I'm straight. Now if it wasn't straight, I could simply pull up that corner. There's only a little bit stuck down, so I'd be able to pull it up and reposition it. And then you just pull your tabs gently, and they'll pull out. There you go. So that allows you to reposition if you need to. Okay. Now the reason I put it up higher this time is I'm going to put these little packages in the bottom corner. So I wanted it to be where you could see the packages. And so having it up higher, I have room for my packages to show up at the bottom. So I'm going to do that decorating before I do the stockings, because then that lets me know where to place the stockings so they're not covering up anything in the background. So I'm going to glue this one down, the tall one down first. And as you can see, there's 2 sides to every paper. I stamped one side and decided I didn't like the way it came out. With these, if you are coloring with your Stampin' Blends, you need to make sure that you stamp the base, there we go, with Memento ink. So these were all stamped with the Tuxedo Black Memento ink, and then I colored them with Stampin' Blends, because the Memento ink is water-based, but Stampin' Blends is alcohol-based. And so you got to do the 2 different ones. Otherwise, the black ink would smear. And then I'm going to pop this guy up on a couple dimensionals. I cut the edges of my dimensionals so I can use them all. So I'll put one there. And then little one at the bottom. So I'm going to pop that guy up on some dimensionals. So have you already started doing your Christmas shopping? As I said, my kids are grown, so they just get gift cards. So I got that there. And then I just like to put an extra little present on the inside, just to have that. And then these guys, just so the inside looks interesting. My original card, I put a couple presents on the inside. And then in this corner here, I'm just going to add some decoration, and I thought I'd hang this down so it looks like mistletoe. Not sure if it's meant to be, but it does to me look like ugly leaves. And I always thought mistletoe looked a bit ugly. And I believe mistletoe has either yellow or white berries on it. So I'm going to use the pearls on this to add some decoration. You don't have to go all out decorating the inside of the card. It's just try to use up some of the different dies in this set and try them all out. See how they work together. There we go. If you find your fingers are getting too sticky, use a block to press things down, which is why my blocks tend to get very sticky as well. But you can clean them off with hand sanitizer. Works quite well because it's got alcohol in it. So it works well to clean. I have a video showing how to clean your blocks with hand sanitizer. So having that there, and we'll pop a few pearls on there. My little box here of all my embellishments. So if you have a little box like that, it's a good thing to use to put your embellishments. That allows you to find them easily. And the pick a tool works quite well for getting things out. So I think I'll use some of these small ones. So just pick them up and I'll just put a few pearls around there for our mistletoe. Oop, turn over. Yep. And they always say you should do things in odd numbers rather, because in nature most things are odd numbers, 3s, 5s, 7s. If you have a look at the petals on flowers, you'll see that. Most often you'll see 5 petals. So I'll just pop 3 on there. And now let's get our stockings going. Oh, knocked a stocking down. I've got some glue on there. Okay, so I got my 3 stockings, but I need to get my mantle. There's my mantle. So there's my mantle, and so I think I like the look of that. So I'm just going to cut it there to make it short enough. This is supposed to be the bricks of my fireplace, is what the effect I'm going for. So I'm just going to snip it there. Because I like the texture of the wood in that middle section. And as I said before, if you want it to show up, the grain show up more, you could use a pen and just gently rub over the edge. So I'm going to pop that up, just using some mini dimensionals to give my mantle a bit of height. And then I will use the large dimensionals for the stockings. Now, I'm not sure whether you're aware of it or not, but it is slightly thicker with the large ones. The other thing you could do is double up your mini dimensionals if you want something to be slightly higher than something else below it. I could use one of the foam strips as well. Okay, so we'll put that right about, that looks good. Alright, now I'm going to have my doggy on that one. So I'll leave those to put on after I put the little stocking. So I could go with the large stocking here. I might do it opposite way. My original one I did the small to large, but I could change this up. So see how I did that, the small to large. But I'm actually thinking, since this one's got less color in it, might do it that way around. Because then also the large stocking helps to cover any cutouts you might have there. So this is where it takes me a while deciding how I want to place things. And also with the coloring, you could decide beforehand how you want things colored. Again, there's too much blue on that side. Yeah, I think I like that better. Okay, so I'm going to put some dimensionals on here and a little bit of glue. So we'll just go with, pop a dimensional in the toes of all of them. And then a partial one part way up. Get more use out of your dimensionals, cut them in half, and then you can use a half a dimensional, and they last longer, or get more mileage out with them. Actually, okay, I just realized I put that too far down because he's going to be hanging over the edge, so pull that up and move that up a bit. You've got to keep in mind what's going to be on the back when you put your stickies on. So there we go. So if I'm going to hang, well, that was going to go in the middle. That's going to hang there. Okay. That one. That was, okay. So I'll stick those down, and I'll put a little, like I said, I'll put a little bit of glue on the little stocking loop to hold it in place. Almost time to get a new bottle of Tombow. So put it at an angle, because of course stockings, when they're full, they don't hold straight. So that glue will hold that part there. Glue on there. Move that one over. And as I said, the bottom of the stocking covers up any gap you might have for that hole. So you're not going to know there's a gift card hiding there until they open it up. And the rest is just the fun of putting things on the stockings. So that's the other thing, is when you're putting your stockings on, make sure you leave enough room to put everything. So now when you open it, you can't see that gap there. Alright, so I was going to put the puppy dog in the biggest one, and then have the cat there and the hamster in the little one, because that makes sense. So just put a little bit of glue right there where the head's going to sit, and on the paws, and then pop him in place. And the same with the dog. We'll put some glue there and then some on the paws. And pop him in place. Now I didn't have to put dimensionals on the animals themselves because they're already sitting on something that's got dimensionals on it. But the cat, if you have a look, when I put the cat down, the back of the cat is going to be sitting on something that doesn't have something to glue to. So I am going to put a dimensional behind the cat. Otherwise, it would be sitting down too far. So we'll just pop one at the top of the head of the cat, and then we'll pop some glue on the paws. So you just have to keep in mind where you're placing things, and that lets you know what kind of adhesive you need to have. And that way, the cat is sitting up high enough for the stock. All right. I had thought about maybe putting the candy cane through their paws, but it just seemed like a bit too much. So I don't know whether I'm going to use a candy cane. Now see that one's flipping up a bit, so I'm going to put a dimensional there to hold them in place. Let me just get one half a dimensional cut up for me. And this will just help to hold the stocking in place. So my other card, because I did smallest to largest, I didn't have that issue. I'll show you that again. So with this card, when you open it up, I didn't have that issue because it's not sticking that much down there. And so this one here, one thing I did is the packages. So see how these don't have any bows on them, those small packages, where all the stamped images of the packages do have bows. What I did is I cut the bottom half of the tall ones. See these tall packages there? So I cut them in half because you're not going to see the whole thing. And then I turned the bottom over and made that look like another package. And so then that's where I put that ribbon on top. So this is the bottom of that package, and that is the bottom of that package. So you can get more mileage out of your stamps that way. So these two had the same packages, basically one package, but the bottom half of the others in them. And then I just stuck that one as is. So you can do that as well. So that's that guy done. And I was going to put some little hats on these guys. I'm not sure if I like the hats on the small ones. They look looks a bit too much on the little guys. I think I might just put it on the puppy dog. Yeah, so I think the hats just look too big on the smaller ones, and it just kind of distracts. So I'll put a little blue there on the top of the dog, and I will put a dimensional on the hat because that's going to be sticking up off the side. So again, using the edge of my dimensionals to get the right size. So we'll have the puppy dog with the hat and nobody else. There we go. So I don't know if I'm going to use any of these other pieces. I guess I could have maybe candy canes down here. I don't know about that. Maybe on either side of my words. Might not use the candy canes in this one. I think I will just leave it as is. So I had a few extra bits. And as you can see, you can pop your Prezi card right in there. So we can pop our Prezi card in there, and that's it. So it's up a bit higher than the other one. So I'm actually thinking I probably should have done one of the presents down here. I could have done a present there, or maybe I could do some candy canes down there. It's looking a bit. I'll do a couple candy canes down there, maybe. I'm not sure. I'll leave that for the moment, but those are the 2 cards. I hope you enjoyed them. Make sure that you look in the description for the other people participating in this Global Monthly Blog Hop. And so that was using the Sweet Little Stockings and Stocking Dies set to give you an idea of how to create cute little cards to go with your gift cards. So we got those 2 types. So this one here opens up, same exact idea, but then I decorate it slightly different on the inside. And this is the same way, but I did it up a bit higher. And there's your presents and all the animals on the mantelpiece. And there you go there. So please give me a thumbs up if you like that. And there'll be, in the description, there will also be the products that I used, as well as check out my blog in the next week. I should have a new blog that will not only have close-up pictures of these, but other gift card holders that I've made this year. So you'll have lots of different ideas if you are giving gift cards this year, how to decorate them and make them a bit more special than just a piece of plastic. Thanks so much for watching, and enjoy your day. Bye-bye.